When someone chooses to hurt another person intentionally, it is rarely about the one being hurt. It is far more about the one who inflicts the pain. Human beings who are whole, secure, and at peace with themselves have no need to belittle others, no desire to crush spirits, and no satisfaction in watching someone else suffer. The choice to wound, to betray, or to insult reflects a fracture within the one who delivers the cruelty. They project their own insecurities, frustrations, and inner battles onto those around them. And because they cannot manage their own pain, they attempt to spread it to others. Understanding this truth is liberating, because it takes the sting out of intentional harm. The sharpness of words or actions still hurts, of course, but when viewed through the lens of reality, it becomes clear that the cruelty has nothing to do with worth. It is not evidence of weakness, failure, or lack on the part of the one receiving it. It is simply evidence of brokenness in the one giving it. Recognizing this separates personal value from the attack, allowing dignity to remain intact. Often, the people who cause the deepest wounds are those who are secretly struggling the most. Their envy may be triggered when they see qualities they wish they had in someone else. Their bitterness may spill out because they feel life has been unfair to them. Their betrayal may stem from their inability to be honest with themselves. What they project outwardly is only a reflection of what is unresolved within them. The mistake many make is internalizing this projection, believing that the cruelty says something about who they are, when in truth it only exposes the brokenness of the other. It is not uncommon for those who intentionally hurt others to do so because they crave a sense of control. They may feel powerless in other areas of life, so they try to gain significance by tearing someone else down. But their attempt at power is an illusion. True strength is not in destroying others, but in building them up. Their cruelty does not reveal authority, it reveals insecurity. They choose the temporary high of seeing someone flinch, rather than doing the hard work of fixing what is broken within themselves. In the end, their actions are not a verdict on anyone else's life, but an indictment of their own character. This understanding is not an excuse for their behavior, but it is an explanation that brings freedom. When someone recognizes that cruelty comes from a place of lack rather than truth, they no longer carry the burden of asking what is wrong with them. Instead, they can see clearly that the issue lies with the one who caused harm. This shift in perspective is powerful because it prevents internalizing lies. It allows someone to stand tall in the face of malice, knowing that what was said or done is not a reflection of reality, but of another's pain. Every insult says more about the speaker than the target. Every betrayal reveals more about the betrayer's character than the one betrayed. Every attempt to humiliate exposes the emptiness of the one who needs to step on others to feel taller. These truths are important reminders because when hurt is taken personally, it can seep into the soul, creating doubt, insecurity, and fear. But when hurt is understood as projection, its power weakens. The arrows may fly, but they do not pierce as deeply when one knows they were never truly aimed at the truth of who they are. It takes emotional maturity to separate identity from attack. Many instinctively assume that if someone points out a flaw, it must be true, or if someone dismisses their value, then they must not be enough. But emotional maturity brings the wisdom to examine the source. Who is speaking? What is motivating them? What unresolved wounds are they carrying? Very often, those who throw the harshest words are the ones who see in others what they cannot face in themselves. Their criticism is not about discovery, it is about projection. Their cruelty is not about truth, it is about release, and knowing this allows the receiver to choose not to internalize poison. Even in families, friendships, and close relationships, where betrayal cuts the deepest, the same principle applies. A harsh word from a parent, a betrayal from a friend, or abandonment from a partner can feel devastating because it comes from those who should nurture, protect, or love. Yet even then, their actions reveal who they are, not who the other person is. A parent who criticizes relentlessly is often battling their own unhealed wounds. A friend who betrays may be driven by jealousy or insecurity. A partner who abandons may be running from their own inability to commit or love themselves. The actions are painful, but they are not accurate reflections of the one receiving them. The danger of internalizing intentional harm is that it can plant seeds of self-doubt. Words echo in the mind long after they were spoken, and actions replay in memory long after they occurred. But understanding that cruelty is a reflection of the giver, not the receiver, uproots those seeds before they grow. It reminds one that worth was never diminished by someone else's inability to see it. Just as a blind person cannot describe the beauty of a sunset, a bitter soul cannot measure the value of a whole one. Their inability to recognize worth says nothing about whether it exists. Choosing not to carry the weight of another's cruelty requires discipline. The natural response is to replay the moment, to wonder why, to look for flaws, or to respond in anger. But discipline says, "This does not belong to me." Discipline refuses to accept the burden of someone else's brokenness. Discipline sets the boundary, "I will not allow your pain to define me," and in that refusal, freedom is found. What is often overlooked is that cruelty loses its power when it is not received. A person can throw words like stones, but if those stones are never picked up, they fall harmlessly to the ground. A person can attempt to shame, but shame only takes root if it is accepted. A person can try to diminish, but diminishment only occurs if the target believes the lie. Refusal to accept the projection is the greatest act of self-respect. It is the silent statement, "Your reflection is not my reality." Over time, those who hurt intentionally reveal themselves. Their patterns become visible, their energy becomes toxic, and their influence diminishes. People begin to see them not as powerful but as bitter, not as strong but as insecure. Their cruelty, meant to elevate them, eventually isolates them, because no one truly respects someone who builds themselves by destroying others. The irony is that in trying to wound, they expose their weakness, and in trying to diminish others, they diminish themselves. On the other hand, those who understand the truth rise stronger. They learn not to take cruelty personally. They grow in resilience, in self-awareness, and in compassion for those who have not yet healed. They become examples of strength, not because they never endured harm, but because they did not allow harm to define them. They shine brighter, not in spite of the cruelty they faced, but because they refused to let it dim their light. In the end, cruelty says everything about the giver and nothing about the receiver. It reveals brokenness, insecurity, envy, and fear. It is a reflection of inner storms spilling outward, and those who encounter it have a choice: to carry it as though it were truth, or to release it as though it were never theirs. Choosing the latter is not denial, it is wisdom. It is the recognition that someone else's reflection does not alter one's reality. The mirror may be cracked, but the image it tries to project is not accurate. The truth remains untouched. Worth is intrinsic, value is unshakable, and no intentional cruelty can change that. When someone deliberately tries to hurt you, the first instinct is often to defend, to argue, to explain, or to retaliate. Human nature craves justice, and the sting of disrespect pushes us to prove ourselves in front of those who sought to bring us down. Yet the truth is, no amount of explanation changes the heart of someone who never intended to understand you in the first place. No amount of anger humbles a person who thrives on your reaction. The more you engage, the more fuel you pour into their fire. That is why silence becomes the most powerful response. Silence is not emptiness, it is strategy. It is not weakness, it is strength. It communicates more than any argument ever could, because it denies the offender the satisfaction of seeing that they had power over you. There is an unmatched dignity in silence. It holds the weight of restraint, the depth of maturity, and the poise of wisdom. Silence says, "Your words are not worthy of my voice. Your actions are not worthy of my energy. Your attempt to pull me into chaos is not worthy of my peace." When you remain silent in the face of intentional harm, you rob the other person of victory. They cannot celebrate your anger, they cannot feast on your frustration, and they cannot claim that they disrupted your life. Silence leaves them powerless, because silence refuses to validate their attempt. But silence is not enough by itself. To stay silent without movement is to stagnate, and stagnation allows bitterness to fester. Silence must be paired with progress. While others use their time to tear you down, your time must be used to build yourself up. While they invest their energy in gossip, manipulation, or cruelty, you must invest yours in growth, learning, and creating. Progress is the one language no critic can silence. It is the undeniable evidence that their words carried no weight, that their harm did not hold you hostage, and that their intentions did not determine your destiny. The beauty of progress is that it does not need to be announced. It speaks for itself. A flower never needs to explain how it grew from the dirt. It simply blooms. Likewise, when you focus on moving forward, on developing yourself, on building your dreams, you rise so high that those who try to hurt you can no longer reach you. Progress is not about proving them wrong, it is about proving yourself right. It is about staying faithful to your path, regardless of who tried to block it. There is also an elegance in combining silence with success. Imagine the power of not responding to insults, but walking into a future where your achievements speak louder than any comeback ever could. Imagine the strength of not defending yourself against slander, but allowing your growth to overshadow every lie. Imagine the grace of letting go of grudges while turning your energy into creativity, resilience, and triumph. That is the mark of someone who understands that the best response to intentional harm is not revenge, but evolution. Every moment spent in conflict with someone who intentionally hurt you is a moment stolen from your progress. Time is too precious to waste on proving yourself to people who never wanted to see your value. The people who truly matter will never need proof. They will recognize your worth without argument. And the people who choose not to see it will never be convinced no matter how loudly you shout. Why waste your voice when your future is waiting for you to build it? Silence saves your voice, and progress amplifies it in the only way that matters. The road of progress is not always easy. There are days when silence feels suffocating, when you long to answer back, when you want to show your strength in the moment. But silence is not passive, it is active resistance. It takes more strength to hold back than to lash out. Anyone can shout, anyone can curse, anyone can defend. It takes discipline to remain calm, to conserve energy, and to redirect it toward what actually builds you. Progress is built on those moments of discipline, on the choices to stay focused while others lose themselves in noise. Consider the stories of those who achieved greatness despite ridicule, betrayal, or opposition. They were criticized, mocked, underestimated, and sometimes even sabotaged. Yet they did not spend their lives fighting back against every voice. They poured themselves into their vision, into their craft, into their calling. And with time, their progress silenced every critic. Their names became synonymous with success, while the voices of those who mocked them were forgotten. That is the power of pairing silence with progress. It outlasts, outshines, and outlives every attempt to destroy you. There is also a deeper reason why progress is the best answer. Engaging with negativity pulls you into the same frequency as the one who intended to harm you. It lowers your vibration, makes you reactive, and keeps you stuck in the cycle of conflict. Progress, however, lifts you into a different space entirely. It shifts your energy away from retaliation and into creation. Instead of responding to insults, you write a book, build a business, pursue an education, create art, or cultivate inner peace. Instead of wasting energy on bitterness, you transform it into fuel for growth. The one who tried to harm you becomes irrelevant because your energy is no longer tied to them. Silence also carries a spiritual dimension. When you refuse to answer back, you create space for life itself to handle what you cannot. There is a universal balance that often brings justice in ways louder than words ever could. Those who harm others eventually face the consequences of their actions, and those who remain steadfast in silence often find that time proves them right. Patience becomes a form of wisdom, and progress becomes a form of justice. But silence does not mean suppression. It does not mean pretending the pain didn't happen or denying your feelings. It means processing those feelings privately, healing in healthy ways, and refusing to let the offender be the center of your story. You acknowledge the hurt, but you choose not to dwell on it. You allow yourself to grieve, but you refuse to let bitterness become your identity. Silence is not about bottling emotions. It is about releasing them in spaces where they cannot be weaponized against you. One of the greatest freedoms comes from realizing that not every attack requires a response. Not every insult deserves your energy. Not every betrayal deserves your voice. Sometimes the most powerful statement is to say nothing and keep moving forward. Because in the end, the one who hurt you is not nearly as important as the one you are becoming. Your future is more significant than their offense, your dreams are louder than their words, and your progress will be remembered long after their cruelty is forgotten. So let silence be your shield and progress be your sword. Let silence protect your peace, and progress carve your path. Let silence deny them the reaction they wanted, and progress prove that they never had the power to stop you. Because the greatest answers in life are rarely spoken, they are lived. They are found in the quiet dignity of restraint and the unstoppable momentum of growth. Energy is the currency of life, and how it is spent determines the direction of one's future. Every thought, every reaction, every decision carries a cost. Some choices replenish energy, filling the heart with purpose and the mind with clarity. Other choices drain it, leaving behind exhaustion, emptiness, and regret. When someone chooses to hurt you intentionally, the temptation is strong to pour energy into resentment, arguments, or revenge. Yet every moment spent in that cycle is energy lost. Energy that could have been invested in growth, healing, and building a future that reflects strength rather than pain. Protecting energy is not only an act of survival, it is an act of vision. It is the decision to value tomorrow more than the wounds of yesterday. When cruelty strikes, it pulls at the mind like a weight. Words replay over and over, questions rise in the night, and the heart becomes restless with the search for explanations. Why did they do this? How could they betray like that? What did I do to deserve such treatment? Each question consumes energy, draining life from the present moment. The truth is, no explanation ever heals the wound. Understanding the motives of someone who chose to hurt you does not undo the hurt. All it does is entangle you in their story, trapping you in the very web they wove to bring you down. Protecting your energy means choosing not to dwell in questions that lead nowhere. It means redirecting attention from what was done to what can still be created. Bitterness is another thief of energy. Holding on to grudges may feel like justice, but it functions like poison. It eats away at joy, narrows perspective, and limits potential. Each time bitterness is fed, it steals from the reservoir of strength needed to pursue dreams. Protecting energy requires refusing to water bitterness. It requires acknowledging the pain but releasing the offender, not for their sake, but for your own. Forgiveness in this sense is not about excusing the wrong. It is about freeing yourself from the invisible chain that keeps you tied to it. By letting go, you reclaim energy that was trapped in the past and reinvest it into a future that deserves it. Attention is energy in its purest form. What you focus on expands. If focus is placed on wounds, they deepen. If focus is placed on progress, it multiplies. Protecting energy is therefore about guarding focus with vigilance. Not every voice deserves to enter the mind. Not every story deserves to live rent-free in the heart. Not every battle deserves to be fought. Many struggles in life are not lost to lack of ability, but to mismanagement of focus. Energy is scattered on distractions, on people who drain, on arguments that do not matter, until little is left for what truly builds a future. To protect energy is to treat focus as sacred, to place it only where it nourishes rather than depletes. Relationships play a critical role in this. Some people uplift, inspire, and challenge you toward growth. Others drain, manipulate, and suffocate. The difference is clear when you walk away from them. Do you feel lighter, inspired, and stronger, or do you feel exhausted, doubtful, and smaller? Protecting energy means creating boundaries, saying no when necessary, and walking away from those who thrive on diminishing your spirit. It is not cruelty to distance yourself from those who harm you. It is wisdom. The energy you preserve in walking away becomes fuel for the journey ahead. Dreams demand energy. Building a meaningful life requires clarity, focus, and strength. If too much is spent on defending yourself against critics or reliving past betrayals, too little remains for creativity and growth. Protecting energy is about recognizing that your future deserves more investment than your wounds. It is about choosing to spend energy on learning new skills, pursuing passions, and nurturing peace rather than wasting it on proving yourself to people who never intended to believe in you. The future is built not with the leftovers of energy, but with the best of it. Protecting energy also requires protecting the inner dialogue. The words repeated silently to oneself carry power equal to or greater than the words spoken by others. If the inner dialogue is filled with self-doubt, guilt, or replayed insults, then energy is consumed from within. The battle is lost before it begins. Protecting energy means cultivating a voice inside that speaks strength, affirmation, and resilience. It means training the mind to replace destructive thoughts with empowering ones. Each time the inner voice shifts from self-criticism to self-belief, energy is restored and redirected toward building rather than breaking. The body is part of this equation as well. Energy is not only mental but physical. Rest, nutrition, and movement are all protectors of future potential. When the body is neglected in the pursuit of revenge or buried under stress caused by intentional harm, energy diminishes rapidly. Protecting energy means treating the body as the vessel of dreams, caring for it as though the future depends on it. Because it does. A well-cared for body fuels a strong mind, and a strong mind fuels a purposeful life. There is also a spiritual element to protecting energy. Resisting the pull of negativity requires alignment with something higher than immediate emotions. For some, it is faith, for others, it is purpose, love, or vision. Whatever form it takes, the anchoring of spirit provides a shield against the chaos of cruelty. When energy is tied to something larger than the offense loses its grip. Protecting energy becomes not just about guarding against harm, but about aligning with a source of strength that transcends it. Every choice to protect energy is a choice to protect the future. The things created tomorrow depend on the energy saved today. The battles that matter, pursuing a dream, raising a family, building a legacy, leaving a mark, require every ounce of strength possible. To waste that strength on people who tried to harm you is to hand them victory long after the battle should have ended. Protecting energy reclaims victory, ensuring that the only influence the offender has is the lesson they inadvertently taught, to value your energy more than ever before. It is important to remember that protecting energy is not selfish. It may look like silence, distance, or refusal to engage, but it is not about ignoring others. It is about preserving yourself so that you can give your best where it truly matters. A depleted person cannot serve, love, or create at their highest capacity. Protecting energy ensures that you have enough to give meaningfully to those who deserve it, to the dreams that call you, and to the life you are building. Energy protection is also about discernment. Not every opportunity is worth pursuing. Not every argument is worth entering. Not every relationship is worth maintaining. The ability to discern what aligns with your purpose and what distracts from it determines how effectively energy is used. Those who scatter themselves across everything and everyone eventually burn out, while those who carefully choose where their energy flows create impact that lasts. Protecting energy means learning to say yes with intention and no without guilt. Perhaps the most powerful truth about protecting energy is that it creates momentum. Energy, once saved and invested into growth, multiplies. A small step of progress fuels motivation, which generates more energy, which fuels more progress. The cycle builds until the future once imagined becomes reality. None of this is possible if energy is drained in battles that never mattered. Protecting energy is therefore not just about preservation, it is about multiplication. It is the foundation upon which extraordinary lives are built. The future belongs to those who learn to guard their energy fiercely. They understand that not every offense deserves a response, not every distraction deserves attention, and not every person deserves access. They save their energy for the climb, for the vision, for the creation of something greater. They know that their dreams are too precious to be sacrificed on the altar of bitterness. They know that their tomorrow is too valuable to be wasted in yesterday's pain. And they know that by protecting their energy, they are protecting their future.